Good evening to everyone. On behalf of Association for Veterinary Dermatology India and Intas Animal Health, I welcome all the veterinarians for this wonderful dermatology webinar. We have all the time the hot problem of atopy all over our practice. You know very well that atopy cannot be curable. So it has to be maintained, and we should give a comfortable environment for the dog, and it should lead a quality life. So we have to see the pathophysiology and ways and means by which we can make it comfortable and we can maintain a very sustainable way of life. So it is very, very important because the owners are very much upset with the longevity of the disease. So it is our duty to tell that it is going to be there forever. So that they will be prepared and they will have their own selection towards drugs and treatment approach and other thing. So it is a very important topic. So we thought, even though we have discussed about this for many occasions, this is a very important area. So we are repeating with a different way with a young scientist or young veterinarian, Dr. Shankar Kumar Singh from Mathura Veterinary College, who is a faculty in veterinary medicine department, and he has done a lot of work in dermatology. So he is the guest speaker for us. I welcome you, sir. And also I welcome Dr. Nitin Bhatia and Dr. Amanjot Singh from Intas Animal Health. And I request Dr. Nitin Bhatia to introduce our guest speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for giving me a chance to introduce about Dr. Shankar. Dr. Shankar is born in 1980 in Siwan district of Bihar. He has completed his BVSc from Mumbai Veterinary College in 2005. Thereafter, he has done MVSc and PhD from IVRA. Dr. Shankar Singh is currently working as assistant professor at Mathura Veterinary College. He has to his credit a lot. He has worked a lot in dermatology. He has had 9 students working with him for MVSc and PhD both. His research works include canine dermatology, metabolic and production disease in large animals, and hemoprotozoal infections in all the animals. He has to his credit more than 70 articles, research publications. He has also been author of a book on veterinary medicine, production, and metabolic diseases. In terms of dermatology, he has been also a leader in diagnosing a new method, that is a super glue slide method for the detection and diagnosis of demodicosis. He has lot to his credit. He has lots of many citations. He has also received the Vice Chancellor Appreciation Award. So I invite Dr. Shankar Singh for his deliberation on canine atopic dermatitis. Over to Dr. Shankar.
Thank you, sir. I'm first of all, I'm thankful to Dr. Bhatia sir, Dr. B. Nagarajan sir, for asking me to have this platform and deliver my expertise and my experiences to the audience and vets who are pan-India. So it will be great opportunity for me, and I'm really grateful to both of you for asking me and giving me this opportunity. I planned my work and I compiled this presentation in such a way that it will help not only to the vets, it will also be helpful for the students who are undergraduate and postgraduate in our country. So, without delaying, I would like to present my uh, presentation. Today's presentation, we will go and share it. If you will permit me, thank you very much. So can I proceed?
Yeah, please.
Is it sharing, sir?
No, not yet.
No, not yet.
Is it sharing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you and welcome to all participants and audience. My dear friends, today we are going to discuss or have an insight in canine atopic dermatitis. As sir have already told, it's one of the most common or commonly encountered practice veterinary dermatological ailment in our practice. And our thinking about canine atopic dermatitis has undergone immense changes in last 85 years. It was first detected and called as eczema by Snell in 1933. Later, it was termed as allergic inhalant dermatitis because people were thinking that it is because of the inhalation of the environmental allergens like pollen, and they told in 1960s it was called as allergen inhalant dermatitis. But later, it has been well proven, and now people are knowing that it's not the inhalation, it is the percutaneous absorption of the environmental allergens, and that are going to abrupt the immunology or the immunological system or immune response of the animal. That's why this disease is now called as canine atopic dermatitis. And if you'll talk about the basic point for this canine atopic dermatitis, it is called as multifaceted disease, which is determined by combination of either genetics as well as environmental factors around the pet. So the four things are very important in canine atopic dermatitis. If you are discussing, it should be well precise that it's a genetically predisposed disease and it's an inflammatory and pruritic allergic skin disease. It is having characteristic clinical features and it's most commonly with the IgE antibody to the environmental antigen. If there is no raise of IgE antibody is always there, should be there if you are detecting or diagnosing a canine atopic dermatitis to the environmental allergens. So these four things should be there before you are going to diagnose canine atopic dermatitis. So there are two hypotheses for this pathophysiology or pathogenesis of canine atopic dermatitis. One theory speaks that a primary immune defect or genetic defect in the immunity, which leading to the abrupt immunological reaction or immune response, which induces lesion in the skin, and this hypothesis is called as inside-outside hypothesis. Another hypothesis, it means that the inside means the problem is inside the body and it is going outside to the skin because of the problem in the inside or immunological system of the animal. But another hypothesis is the primary defect in the skin barrier. It means that barrier which is going to protect the body, it is going to be defected, and because of that defect in the skin barrier, there is presentation of the environmental allergens to the inside body or immune system, and that's why it's called as outside inside hypothesis. It means that first skin is going to be damaged or barrier is not working properly. If the defective barrier is there, that will lead to aggravation or overreaction of immune system and ultimately clinical manifestation or clinical feature of canine atopic dermatitis. Now, what could be the possible abnormalities or defect in the barrier? In this one, you can see that abnormality in the ultrastructure, particularly about the stratum corneum and barrier proteins. Barrier proteins are the enveloped proteins of the corneocytes, and these proteins are mainly going to manage or mainly going to defense the barrier protection of the skin, or it is if we'll talk about this protein, we will discuss this later. There are three barrier proteins. One is the filaggrin, isoleucine, and loricrin. These barrier proteins are mainly involved in maintaining the hydration of the corneal, or you can say that stratum corneum. Similarly, if there is imbalance of immune response, if there is polarization of Th1 cells from Th1 to Th2 side, we will discuss it later on, then there will be development of inflammatory response, and this polarization is mainly involved in development of the canine atopic dermatitis. So, keratinocytes function in skin barriers to be discussed how they are going to work. That keratinocytes are the primary cell that leads to skin barrier formation. As keratinocyte matures, they accumulate keratin and lipids, that is cholesterol, free fatty acid, and ceramides. These lipids are going to maintain the hydration status of the skin. During the migration of stratum granulosum to the stratum corneum, a dense protein or lipid-rich barrier is formed by the corneocytes. And if there is any defect in this corneocyte, this lipid-rich barrier will be deformed, and after deformation, you will find there will be presentation of the environmental allergen. So, genetic defect, that is the defect in function of barrier proteins like filaggrin protein, which cross-link keratin into tight bundles and it moisturizes the stratum corneum. This filaggrin has been also known that it go to, or it polymerize, you can say it degraded into the smaller peptides which are having hygroscopic properties. So they maintain or retain the hydration of the skin. If hydration will not be there, and if the filaggrin proteins are defective, then the moisturize or stratum corneum moisturization will be hampered. Similarly, if there is decrease in skin ceramides, you can say that then there will be loss of water, and water retention in the stratum corneum will be hampered. And another way of the genetic defect that could hamper the over activation of epidermal proteases. These epidermal proteases are going to damage the corneocyte desquamation, and ultimately you will find there will be epidermal barrier dysfunction. This leads to loss of water, that is called as transepidermal water loss towel. And if there will be more loss of water, there will be more dryness, and if there will be dryness in the superficial or stratum corneum, that will be a very good opportunity for the presentation of the environmental antigens to the immune system. And then once there will be presentation of environmental allergens, that will create the problem. So how this inflammation and immune system get dysfunction? If there is defective barrier function, then there will be, as we have discussed, either there is dehydration, or you can say there is water loss, or there is defective skin barrier. At that time, you will find there will be percutaneous exposure of on absorption of the environmental allergens. And this environmental allergens are mainly presented to the Langerhans cells and dendritic cell in the epidermal layer of the skin, and Neb Langerhans cells are going to complex with the MHC complex, and that is going to activate the Neb TH cell, and this Neb TH cell further activated, and they polarize the Neb TH cells towards the Th2 phenotypes. And once that Th2 proliferation will be there, differentiation will be there, Th2 cytokine, specific cytokines like IL-4 and IL-13 are further produced. And these IL-4 and IL-13 not only inducing the inflammation, as well as these are stimulating B cell to become plasma cell. And these plasma cells are going to produce allergen specific IgE. And this IgE further activates Th2 cell migrate to the skin and help with the help of chemokines and so many attractants in the skin, and allergen specific IgE also entered into the circulation and other tissue. After entry of this Th2 cells and allergen specific IgE, there is huge inflammatory changes in the local skin, and that allergen can cross-link with the allergen specific IgEs, and there will be activation or degradation of the mast cell, or you can say this will induce or enhance the production of various chemokines like histamine, serotonin, and substance P. These are the inflammatory markers. These histamines, substance P, and serotonins, along with the inflammatory cytokines that are from the Th2 group, are going to induce the actual inflammatory changes in the skin, and this are going to activate the keratinocyte, monocyte, and mast cell, which produce huge amount of pro-inflammatory cytokines such as tumor necrosis factor alpha, as well as some additional Th2 cytokines, which is of much interest for the development of canine atopic dermatitis. It has been identified as IL-31. Interleukin 31, it is released and activated in the neurons, and it is going to the main cause of inducing pruritus. Interleukin 31 is considered nowadays, it has been considered to be the milestone, or you can say that the main immunopathological factor which is going to induce this canine atopic dermatitis. This IL-31 binds to heterodimer receptors, and it is found, these receptors are found in variety of the cells like keratinocyte, macrophage, and eosinophils. And once this IL-31 binds to these cells, they are going to degranulate and produce the inflammatory markers, and further the vicious cycle of inflammation takes place, and that induces the clinical manifestation or clinical feature of canine atopic dermatitis. Thus, another T helper cell type, recently we have worked on that also, that is a type Th17 cells. They are also considered to be the potent inducer of the inflammation, and the interleukin 17 appear to be expressed in acute lesion of canine atopic dermatitis. Recently, we have worked on this, and we also observed that IL-31 as well as IL-17 has been the major component which are going to affect, or which are the marker of the inflammation, or going to induce the inflammatory changes in which is observed in the canine atopic dermatitis. Another pathway up to now we have discussed that how these cells are polarized Th1 to Th2 side, but the cytokines before going to be produced, they are mainly triggered or triggered by or some transducer inside the cell. If their receptor activation is there, then some pathways are there that is called as JAK or a STAT pathway. That JAK pathway is the mainly associated. These JAK and STAT pathways are mainly associated with production of a specific cytokine. What type of cytokine is going to be produced? It depends upon the transcription or stimulation or regulation of the JAK pathway and STAT pathway. This signal transducer STAT pathway is not the main target. We are going to target the JAK1 pathway. There are 4 types of JAK pathways in the mammalian tissue. One is JAK1, JAK2, JAK3, and tyrosine kinase 2 pathway. But in our interest, where there is canine atopic dermatitis is induced and inflammatory cytokines are regulated, in that one JAK1 pathway is mainly activated, which activate type 2 cytokine receptors and further production of IL-31 and other pro-inflammatory cytokines. So nowadays, this Janus kinase inhibitors, particularly which are going to inhibit this JAK1 pathway, are the promising drug, and which are considered to be the best drug, or these are also available in market that can be used for management of canine atopic dermatitis. So this how so many allergens are there in the environment, like insects, molds, mites, house dust mites, dander, and this pollen. These are the mainly going to expose to the particular area where there is dry skin, or you can say there is a skin barrier defect. After that, it will be presented to the cells, or the inflammatory cells or immunological response will be there. So for this diagnosing the canine atopic dermatitis, there are two things very important. The age of onset is only considered to be the typical, which is from 6 months to 3 years of the age group are mainly affected, but it's not always uncommon, but there may be possibility in less than 6 months as well as greater than 7 years of the age can have the first appearance of this canine atopic dermatitis. Similarly, the clinical features, it's a typical clinical feature. There will be pruritus with no skin changes. This is the first, or you can say the primary skin feature or lesion of the canine atopic dermatitis without any skin changes. If pruritus is there, then you can suspect for canine atopic dermatitis. Later on, you will find there will be development of erythema, edema, excoriation, papules. These are presented mainly on the axilla, extreme, inguinal area, and medial thighs. So many places where there is more presentation of this environmental antigens. So what are the additional feature of canine atopic dermatitis? These are not the primary, these are secondary. Secondary lesions commonly reported in canine atopic dermatitis like chronic pruritus and trauma, chronic inflammation, concurrent secondary infection, and microbial overgrowth can be there. Secondary lesion also includes red-brown salivary staining, excoriation, self-induced alopecia, dry luster hair, hypopigmentation, scaling, and lichenification. Atopic otitis externa or oral pruritus is very common if patient is suffering from this canine atopic dermatitis, and in more than 50% of the cases you will find conjunctivitis. In chronic cases, you will find severe chronic lesions consisting of self-induced alopecia, erythema, lichenification, hyperpigmentation, scaling, and different secondary infections. So, what are the typical location, or you can say anatomical location of pruritus is typical for this canine atopic dermatitis? A typical dog atopic dermatitis will exhibit pruritus of face, muzzle, periocular area, paws, ventrum, and ears and extremities. Or you can find anyone can be the combination of these area. You will find there will be development of pruritus. So why this around the eye, around the mouth, ear infection, and you can say armpits, abdomen, and around the anus? This typically presentation, anatomical presentation on the paws is there. So there are two reasons behind this, that this anatomical presentation for canine atopic dermatitis. One is if you'll find the thickness of skin is very important for the hydration status. If you'll find the thickest skin will be on the dorsum of the body, and I mean that the thickness of skin is the very high on the forehead and on the back. But as you will proceed towards the extremities, particularly on the toes and on the ventral side of the body, you will find the thinnest skin will be there. So if the skin layer is thin, the water transpiration, what we call transepidermal water loss, will be more from the thinnest skin, and these are the particular area where antigenic presentation will be there, and there will be development of local inflammatory change in those areas. Another areas like periocular, perioral, and perianal, wherever there is natural orifice is there, you will find there will be lesion in any of the allergic reaction. Why it is? We should know that because this where there is mucocutaneous junction is there, it means that if natural opening is there At that point, you will find there will be mucocutaneous junction. And you should know that at the mucocutaneous junction, the aggregation or density of the mast cell is the highest. So any of the allergic or IgE mediated immune response, you will find there will be itching in around the eye or natural orifice. So clinical lesion around the natural orifice is common in the allergic reactions if it is due to the any allergen. So if you are having any allergy, you will find there will be rhinitis because there is a mucocutaneous junction between the nose and the skin. Similarly, perioral lesion will be there, perianal lesion will be there. So there are two regions for this typical anatomical presentation, and this could be the region for typical diagnostic marker you can use as a clinical feature of canine atopic dermatitis. So the diagnosis of canine atopic dermatitis is based on age of onset. We have already discussed it should be between 6 months to 3 years of the age. Seasonality of the clinical signs. Usually atopic dermatitis appears in a particular season when the environmental allergens are there, but it usually doesn't appear throughout the year. But sometimes if environmental allergens are there in the environment throughout the year, then your pet will suffer from throughout the year allergic features or even pruritus. But usually it is seasonal, and this is the only point where we consider to differentiate is from adverse food reaction. In adverse food reaction, you will find there will be inflammatory or pruritus throughout the year, but in atopic dermatitis, you will find there will be seasonality or seasonal changes will be there. It will appear and disappear with change in the season. Another point, that is the pruritus with no skin changes at the onset of the time. You will find there will be only pruritus, and another factor we should consider, that is the familiar or breed predisposition. That is the West Highland Terriers, Golden and Labrador Retriever, German Shepherd, Boxer, French Bulldog, Bull Terrier, and Sharpei are having the more exposure or having the more chances of occurrence of this canine atopic dermatitis. If dogs of these breeds are presented to you, you should consider this as the priming factor, because some breeds are having more susceptibility for development of immune response to the environmental allergens. And if you are having history of previous response to the glucocorticoid, it's also indicative of canine atopic dermatitis. So there are so many criteria were there in earlier, but nowadays the one of the criteria which is going to follow throughout the globe is the Fabreau's criteria for diagnosis of canine atopic dermatitis. In this one, there are 8 criteria given. Out of 8 criteria, any 5 should be there. Like that, the onset of sign should be under 3 years of age, dog living mostly indoors, glucocorticoid responsive pruritus. Pruritus should be a start without production of lesion or skin lesion. It affected front legs, affected ear pinna, non-affected ear margin. Why this ear margin is not considered? If ear margin is involved, or if you are looking on the ear flap and margin is excoriation or lesions are there on the margin of the ear flap, then you should consider about the sarcoptic mange, because the mange mite are mainly densely aggregated to the ear margin of the ear flap. So if margins are affected, we are not going to take into the canine atopic dermatitis. And another non-affected area, that is the dorsolumbar area. As I have already told you that the thickness of skin on the dorsolumbar area is huge. So the antigenic presentation to those area which are environmental antigens, they are not going to elaborate or they enhance the immune response. So if you are finding dorsolumbar area is affected we are always suspecting for the flea bite dermatitis or flea allergy dermatitis. So that should be excluded. Out of these 8 criteria, if you are finding any of the 5 criteria is there, then you can consider it's a canine atopic dermatitis. But the limitation of this Favrot criteria is that its sensitivity is just and specificity is just 80%. It means that every 5th dog is going to be misdiagnosed with this criteria. So what to do? So further, you should go for other tests. So to overcome the limitation of Favrot criteria, as all atopic dogs are not going to fit to this criteria, and this criteria is not suitable for diagnosing, or you can say differentiating the food allergy or adverse food reaction. So what to do? The limitation, overcome this limitation of this, you have to opt for exclusion criteria of the other disease. So regardless of the history and criteria, cats should never be diagnosed until other diseases are confirmed. So you have to be very careful for diagnosis of other diseases, like if you are suspecting for flea allergy dermatitis, there will be dorsolumbar exposure. If you are you have to go for clinical examination or dermatological examination for ectoparasitic infestation. And you have to also rule out the primary skin infection of bacterial and fungal infection, so that you can be typically go towards, if you are excluding these diseases and including the Favrot criteria, then you can keep your dog in canine atopic dermatitis. Previously, the intradermal test and estimation of the canine specific IgE testing were conducted for diagnosis, but now these tests are not considered to be a hallmark of diagnosis of canine atopic dermatitis. So Favrot criteria is the basic criteria on the basis of which you can go for diagnosis of canine atopic dermatitis. Now, what are the different approaches for treatment? That's very important, as we have discussed the pathophysiology in short, but if you are knowing the pathophysiology, you will manage the problem very nicely. So you have to manage a patient, and not a single medicine is available which is going to cure all patients. You have to use combination of medicine. You have to educate your owner, or compliance of the owner should be there. So first and the most important part is the identifying and addressing the things which is associated with the flare factor. What are different flare factors? Different environmental allergens are there. So you have to identify that. And after identifying and removing that flare factor, you have to go for the systemic or topical anti-inflammatory medicine, so that you can manage the basic problem. So the cornerstone of the therapy is the avoidance of the allergens. And so for avoiding the allergens or management of allergic skin disease, the first step should be the elimination of offending substances like pollen, house dust mite, molds, and food antigen. One of the commonest antigen for development of this canine atopic dermatitis is considered to be the house dust mite, that is the Dermaphagoides freni. So to minimize the exposure of house dust mite, there are some spray or available in the market, like benzyl benzoate spray, which can use for the acariciidal activity and cleaning or controlling the population of the house dust mite. Another theoretically seems to be good methodology is the vacuuming. Vacuum cleaning of the mattresses and the environment by vacuum. You can reduce the presentation of house dust mite. Apart from that, these house dust mites are very sensitive to the hot water. So you can go or ask the owner for cleaning of or moisture cleaning or cleaning of the mattresses as well as bedding of the pet and doormats in hot water, at least it should be 53 degrees centigrade, so that mite will die in that area. So three things can be used for avoidance of the allergen. One is the spray, another is the use of vacuuming, another and cleaning of the mattresses. Apart from these, allergen immunotherapy are available. So in this one, what to do? The commonly identified allergens are given in escalating doses. And there are two ways of giving the environmental allergen or a commonly identified allergen. One is the subcutaneous dosing, another is sublingual dosing. So some recombinant house dust mite allergens are also available in the market and you can use, but it's a very long process because the methodology behind this is the desensitization or development of tolerance against the environmental allergens. But if you are giving this allergen, it's a long time. It will take at least 12 months and you have to give twice daily this allergens in lower doses, and starting from lower doses you have to improve that on gradually. But this sublingual sprays of the this allergen are well tolerated by these dogs, and these are only prescribed or recommended twice daily sublingual dosing, and but it takes at least for 12 months to observe the desirable effects. In many aspects, this immunotherapy or allergen specific, you can say immunotherapy, they also monitor the body by development of tolerance, and they after giving this low dose of the allergens, antibody production, cytokine secretion, mast cell degradation and T cell activation is going to be regulated. As you people are now aware that Th2 cells are polarized and that are responsible for the development of inflammatory changes in early cases of canine atopic dermatitis. So shifting of Th2 towards Th1 can be achieved by allergen specific immunotherapies. Nowadays, one company is there in market, it's not in India, and one Japanese company, Genac, is there, and they are producing recombinant allergen specific DAR-F2 and DAR-P2 specific immunotherapy. The beauty of this allergen specific house dust mite allergen therapy is that it is not required to be given daily. The dosing of this Alarmune SDM, which is developed by this Genac, is 10 microgram at monthly subcutaneous doses. So the frequency of administration is low. Owner will be happy that he is not going to monitor or he is not going to infuse daily. And this is considered to be one of the newest therapy for it is also used as preventive measure, or it can be used as therapeutics of canine atopic dermatitis, but it is not available in India. In near future, we will have this product definitely. Now, another part is the management of inflammation and pruritus. What are different pathophysiology that should be targeted? As we have discussed that many cells are going to contribute the immune network and development of inflammatory changes. There will be upregulation and downregulation of various modulators of cytokines and chemokines, and those are to be targeted to manage the canine atopic dermatitis. So the first and the foremost choice of drug is the oral and topical glucocorticoids. As you people are knowing that glucocorticoids are fastest acting, within 12 hours or 24 hours you'll find the effects. After giving within 12 to 24 hours, there will be appearance or observation or reduction in the pruritus. In this one, these glucocorticoids are deactivating many inflammatory cells and reducing inflammatory and itch mediators. In this one, prednisolone or prednisone can be given at the dose range of 0.5 to 1 mg per kg body weight. Similarly, methylprednisolone can be given at the dose rate of 0.4 to 0.8 mg per kg body weight at 24-hour intervals, or it can be divided into 2 doses for 5 to 15 days. After 5 to 15 days, you have to reduce or taper the doses of this glucocorticoids, as these are not the safest drugs. They are going to induce polyuria, polydipsia, so many complications, immunosuppression, development of some parasitic diseases, urinary tract infection, because they are targeting the whole immunity. So these drugs are not to be used for a longer period because they are having their own side effects. They are also stimulating the hepatic enzyme activities. So there are so many complications of these drugs. So once you will absorb the desirable effect of this medicine, then after that you should reduce or you can discontinue these drugs. So to avoid the untoward effects of this glucocorticoids, some companies has reduced the dose by adding the glucocorticoid sparing drugs like trimiprazine. One Zoetis company has developed one tablet that is containing trimiprazine 5 mg and prednisolone 2 mg. So the dose of this glucocorticoid can be reduced by addition of this H2 blocker, H1 blocker antihistaminics, addition of the antihistaminic. So trimiprazine, the dosing has been already scheduled by or recommended by the manufacturing company. Similarly, topical glucocorticoids can be considered for use, and these are mainly in the market like 1% hydrocortisone and 0.015% triamcinolone. This can be used for local suppression or suppression of inflammation, but these are not also without any side effects. The adverse effects of repeated topical application of glucocorticoids is the epidermal atrophy and dermal collagen hyalinization. These are the side effects, and they can also topically, if you are applying, can impair the microenvironment of the skin. So there may be chance of development of dermatosis or overproliferation of dermatectic mange. So to overcome this, another drug came in the market, that is the cyclosporine, which is called as calcineurin inhibitors. And these calcineurin inhibitors are the calcium carbonylene dependent inhibitor of calcium carbonylene dependent phosphatidase, and these are mainly associated for development and activation of T cell of the immune system. So cyclosporine blocks T cell proliferation by suppressing several pro-inflammatory cytokines, and this cyclosporine is having variable option. There are so many types of preparation available in the market, and it can be used at the dose rate of 5 mg per kg body weight at 24-hour interval. And the drawback of this cyclosporine is the vomiting and diarrhea, which is commonly seen in up to 30% of the patient. And if you are going to use this for prolonged period, you will find there will be chance of occurrence of urinary tract infection, immunosuppression, and development of other diseases. The only major compliance or major disadvantage of this cyclosporine oral preparation is that its effect or desirable effect is observed after very long period. It takes at least 6 to 8 weeks to subside the inflammation or subside the pruritus. So you will always find that there is no compliance with the owner. if you are asking that it will work after 6 weeks of the administration, no one is going to be ready. Everybody want there should be immediate effect, and they want that there should be relief of pruritus. But this drug is not going to consider, or if you are going to use this drug, it should only be used in those patients who are refractory to the glucocorticoids. But this drug is not going to give the immediate effects. So there are so many preparation to avoid. Some capsules are there, some micro emulsified preparations are there to enhance the gastric absorption as well as to avoid the gastric upset issues. So you can also use some local or topical calcineurin inhibitors like tacrolimus, and these are the same working in the same mechanism in the local skin. So the effect, this local tacrolimus is considered to be relatively effective as well as safe. But the one thing you will not find, there will be immediate relief as you will find in the local glucocorticoid spray. Immediately there will be no check, or no pruritus will be checked immediately after application of this tacrolimus or this local application of this tacrolimus or calcineurin inhibitor. So you should inform the client or owner that the effect will be observed after a few days or after the application of this drug, and this is the benefit of this drug and this is the drawback of this drug. Everything should be informed to the client, so there will be more compliance with the pet owner that what you are doing and why you are doing. Another method or another medicine which is considered to be used in this canine atopic dermatitis is the pentoxifylline, and this pentoxifylline is considered to be an umbrella drug, and it has lot of work and lot of functions. So it's mainly phosphodiesterase inhibitor, and phosphodiesterase are the activator of inflammation. So this pentoxifylline can be used at the dose rate of 10 mg per kg body weight twice daily for 4 weeks. And it is not a sole therapy of canine atopic dermatitis. This should always be used with an adjunct to the glucocorticoid, or you can use it with essential fatty acids. So few years back we have used this and we found very good effect of pentoxifylline with polyunsaturated fatty acids in management of canine atopic dermatitis. So if chronicity is there, then you can opt. Nothing is working at that time, you can opt this pentoxifylline along with the other drugs, and it will definitely help you to manage the problem. The most novel drug which is going to come in our market, Indian market, that is oclacitinib, which comes under name of Apoquel. We have already discussed. The Janus kinase inhibitors are the promising drug which are going to be the one of the hope for management of canine atopic dermatitis, and it is as effective and as fast as glucocorticoids, and it is considered to be safe because it is not having too much immunosuppressive effect. And this oclacitinib, which is inhibitor of Janus kinase 1, specifically there are 4 JAKs in the body. JAK1 is mainly associated with regulation of or polarization of Th1 to Th2 side. So this oclacitinib is going to block the JAK1, and if the JAK1 is blocked, then the main player of this canine atopic dermatitis, IL-31, is abruptly diminished and its production is down regulated. So this drug will be available in our country in 1 or 2 months, I think, and this is from Zoetis, and they are going to market very soon in our country. Once this drug will be available in our hand, it will be great helpful for us to manage the canine atopic dermatitis. The dose prescribed for this is 0.4 to 0.6 mg per kg body weight twice daily for 14 days, followed by once daily if it is as needed. But this drug, there are so many research which are indicating the combination of oglacitinib with alarmune with other drugs are there. So still there is confusion that this drug is going to be immunosuppressive or not. Some researchers are saying that it has immunosuppressive effect. Another way of management or of craniometropy is the establishment of the skin barrier. As we have already discussed, that the barrier is the most important part to manage craniotopic dermatitis, because the initiation is mainly associated with barrier defect, as we have discussed in the pathophysiology. So lipid barrier can be maintained primarily by the sphingolipid and ceramides. So a diet rich in linoleic acid can restore the defective barrier, as well as administration of high dose of omega-6 fatty acids can be used to modulate the clinical presentation. Some topical preparations of Asphodel preparations are available in the market, as that can be used as a ceramide, and that can be helpful in maintenance of the barrier defect. Or some moisturizing creams or moisturizers which are having moisturizing effect or retaining hydration status of the stratum corneum, they can be used to maintain or establish the skin barrier. The shampoos and spray that contain ceramide and precursor of phytosphingosins can be used for maintenance of the hydration status, as well as to maintain the barrier of the skin. Shampoo containing antiseptic fatty acid and complex sugars are nowadays recommended in combination with other drugs to maintain the barrier protein and barrier defect. Supplementation with fatty acid enriched diet can result in significant decrease in transdermal water loss. So we have already discussed the transdermal water loss is the main pathophysiology, or you can say it is the main physiological or primary physiological effect by which there is presentation of the environmental allergen. So if hydration will be maintained, then the presentation of environmental allergen will not be at the presenting to the epidermis and epidermal Langerhans and dendritic cells. So the immune misregulation will be not there. So supplementation of fatty acid enriched can be used. In my practice, what I observe, not only oral supplementation, you can use this vegetable oils, nourishing massage a day before applying these shampoos can be of great helpful, because just massaging with this vegetable oils like coconut oil a day before applying this shampoo could be of great helpful for maintaining the hydration status, as well as breaking the barrier, or you can say making a barrier between the environmental allergen and this presentation to the skin. So for any allergen which can be prevented by application of direct application of this vegetable oils on the skin. So another which was the antihistamines were previously considered to be the most effective, but now it has been well established that antihistamines are relatively ineffective in most of the atopic drugs. They're most useful for dogs with house dust mite allergy. If used in combination with essential fatty acids and topical therapy and program allergen avoidance, then can be used. The two drugs nowadays which are recommended most commonly, that is the hydroxyzine at the dose rate of 2 mg twice daily, and cetirizine at dose rate of 0.5 to 1 mg per kg at 24-hour intervals can be used. But this depends upon the owner-client relationship. You have to told the owner that what is it going to be work at what extent. Now another novel or promising drug after 20 years of the research on monoclonal antibody in veterinary practice only, one drug came that is called as Lokivetmab or Cytopoint. It comes under the name of the Cytopoint. This Cytopoint is a monoclonal antibody capable of neutralizing canine interleukin IL-31. So this IL-31, as we have discussed, that this IL-31 is the one of the most causative, or you can say the player of the canine atopic dermatitis. So if you are blocking directly this IL-31, so it is the one of the best way. You are not going to suppress the immunity. You are away from the other complication. So this Lokivetmab can be the noble or promising drug if it will be available in our country for management of this canine atopic dermatitis. Its response is very fast and pruritic response can be achieved within just antipruritis within 24 to 72 hours. So it is acting fast and its repetition is also long. Its half-life is very high. So you need to apply or inject it every month. So monthly interval you can inject, and subcutaneous administration of this Lokivetmab or Cytopoint at 2 mg is recommended for management of canine atopic dermatitis. Still, there are some research which are saying that this Cytopoint along with this Janus kinase inhibitors can be used for management of best management of canine atopic dermatitis. And last but not the least, the newest concept came in which that spray-based heat-treated lactobacilli can be used for management of atopic dermatitis, and this can be come in near future a spray which are having heat-treated lactobacilli. So the hypothesis is there that how this antigenic presentation are there. So in human being, over hygiene hypothesis is there. So good bacteria, bad bacteria hypothesis is there. How the immune system is overreacting to the environmental allergen, that is there in well discussed in human patients. But we are little bit lacking this type of research. We are still have to go in detailed research for that, and in near future we will find there will be some more new promising drug which will be used for management of canine atopic dermatitis. So in summary, canine atopic dermatitis is one of the paramount dermatological ailments encountered during the practice. There is no definitive diagnostic tool available for its accurate diagnosis. Clinical manifestation of the cases are considered to be the most appropriate for its diagnosis. Pathophysiology of canine atopic dermatitis is very complex and multifaceted. Recently developed drugs like Janus kinase inhibitors and immunotherapies like Lokivetmab can be promising drug for management of this canine atopic dermatitis. In near future, and one more thing we should note, not a single drug is effective in all dogs. So the combination or the clinical or discretion of the clinician is required, what he want to do and what drug he want to prescribe for management of canine atopic dermatitis. So thank you so much for listening and your patience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Dr. Shankar.
Thank you,
for
sir.
taking us into a journey of atopic dermatitis. We have a few questions. Am I equal?
Yeah.
Yeah, little.
The number one question is, what is the incidence of canine atopy in India?
Yeah, it's not a well planned study, but people are considered not in our country because we are not have a survey of atopic dermatitis. But in practice, people are, if you will talk about dermatological ailment, more than 15% of cases are there of atopy.
So what Dr. Shankar said is 15% of dermatological affections are, yeah, more than 15 to 20% are dermatological. How can we monitor immunosuppression in a canine atopic dog?
Yeah, so for that, this glucocorticoid side effects can be monitored, and these are the monitoring. For glucocorticoid, if you are using glucocorticoid, you have a monitoring system. So you have to evaluate the, always go for the urine culture. If you are finding there is a infection or there is bacterial infection in the urine culture, then there may be chance of immunosuppression. Similarly, you should go for the examination of the skin scraping. If there is development or proliferation of mite is there, it means that it's indicating that there is immunosuppressive states are there. And if there are concurrent infections are getting to at the time of administration of drug, then we can suspect that immunosuppressive sequences are going on. But the monitoring of this cyclosporine is very difficult. You can't monitor that. So it's very difficult for cyclosporine. For glucocorticoid, you can go for estimation of enzymes. You can observe for the clinical symptoms of this polyuria, polydipsia, polyphagia, thinning of the skin, muscular atrophy. So these things can be considered if you are finding any untoward effects. So you have to discontinue that drug.
One of the questions is there an association between canine atopic dermatitis and polydipsia?
There is this canine atopic dermatitis is not going to do polydipsia. Actually, the drug, if you are using glucocorticoid, that's are going to induce polydipsia, because it is this cortisol, or you can say the glucocorticoids are just interacting for the binding of ADH, and at that time ADH is not functioning properly. So antidiuretic hormone will not work that in the kidney, and the concentration of urine will not be there. And at that time you will find there will be polydipsia, and that will be compensated by that time you will find polyuria, and that will be compensated by polydipsia.
Right, sir. The next question is on fentoxyliphenol. Do you have? Yeah. Do you have any clinical evidence on that?
Yeah, I have already told that we have published that on in a very reputed international journal, that is on veterinary pharmacology and therapeutics. That is well-known journal. And my post-graduation, I published that in 2010. I work on that because at that time we didn't have this in our country, this cyclosporine and this oglosutinib. Oglosutinib is still not there. And so much of the preparation at that time, I have worked on the icosapentaenoic acid and linoleic acid, along with the combination of that pentoxifylline. So it has been well proven, and I already told that it is having an umbrella drug. If you are having a chronic skin problem, your patient is not going to be cured. At that time, you can use. It is mainly used in human being for the management of paralysis or cerebral hemorrhages, because it enhances the plasticity and pliability of the RBC. So it is having so much of effects, and that's why it's called as umbrella drug. But in dermatosis, it is well published, and so many articles are there. Initially, it was used for management of chronic dermatological ailments. So it will definitely help in management of chronic cases of atopic dermatitis.
The next question is from Dr. Neelam. She's asking, is liquid cyclosporin as effective as capsule in your experience?
Yeah, people said that capsule is more not effective. It's not about the efficacy of the drug. It's about the tolerance of the drug, how this is going to be tolerant. Because I have told that it is going to be effective after minimum administration of 6 weeks. But the basic drawback of that cyclosporine is the gastric upset. There will be vomitus, or there will be development of diarrhea. So to maintain that and enhance the absorption of cyclosporine, so many microemulsification, capsule formation. So people are claiming that capsules are better than the other preparation.
Right, Dr. Shankar. There are a number of other questions also. Lots of appreciation for your entire lecture. So I'll come back to you. We have with us Dr. Nagraj, so I'll also request him to put some clinical insight into canine atopic dermatitis.
Definitely.
Yes, sir. A good presentation. I appreciate your
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you so much.
In that, you were telling about the intradermal skin testing.
Yeah,
So the intradermal skin testing, actually, it is not a diagnostic, but the thing is, it is very much important for identifying the allergen, because once you have to diagnose or suspect it is a case of atopic dermatitis by way of favorite et al. Criteria, by ruling out the skin scraping and other allergic dermatitis, or by taking away the microbes, ruling out all those things. After that, if you are going to apply, if it is going to be highly suspicious for atopic dermatitis, we'll be going for steroid trial. Then if it is going to be confirmed, and we can very well go for a intradermal skin testing to identify what type of allergen is developing IgE. So from that, we can take the allergen which is responsible for inducing atopy in that particular dog. So we have to have this as a immunotherapeutic. So whenever you go for immunotherapy, you have to go for it. Either you can go for serum analysis, or we can go for doing intradermal skin testing. But the thing is, we have to work out for individual state. It vary, because what is available in the market will not be applicable for us, because whatever they have is not suiting for Indian allergens. So we have got a lot of variable allergens in different states. So it is very high time to work out for it. And then we have to go for identifying the specific allergen group. And then we have to go for intradermal skin testing. Then from that, we have to identify which allergen is going to cause that. From that, we have to take the immunotherapy. So immunotherapy is the promising area. It is the future. So it is nearly, even though it is not going to have 100% thing, it will be having definitely more than 70%, 70 to 80% cure. Even though it is a long run, the disease itself is long run. So disease itself is a chronic disease, and they got fed up. So it is tailor-made for individual dog. So individually will vary. So the multifactorial or multi-drug approach is the right way to go for it. But we have, you have mentioned about the Alarmune, which is which is only a house dust mite. So the house dust mite, if it is going to be a problem, it will help. It won't cover all the other allergens. So it will be a part of the treatment. It is not going to be a very great treatment. You have to add the treatment as you are doing the pentoxifylline. Pentoxifylline is an umbrella drug, and it is going to help in augmenting the healing process. Like that, we have got many drugs. So like lipid barrier, that is a very important area where we have to concentrate, and we have to control the cytokines, and we have to developing the antibody for the allergens. So that is what I wanted to insist. And apart from that, what you have told, like benzyl peroxide spray or hot water, all those things. Apart from that, we have got HEPA filters. So high efficiency percolating air purifier available. Can advise one or two. And even the immunotherapy can be made as a rush therapy. It's, instead of going for a long period, we have got two type. See, you have told about the lingual, sublingual, but the sublingual, there are certain reservations. Say they have identified how which is superior, like that. In that intradermal, that is subcutaneous, is found to be more as per the available literature. And in human it is working out very well, and even in dogs they claim that. But even then, the subcutaneous route found to be the most now. But maybe variation in the preparation or anything has to be done. Still, we have not gone into that. Even we have not gone into the subcutaneous route of allergen immunotherapy. So first we have to follow that. For that, we have to identify the allergens which are available in different states in India, and we have to identify the top 10 allergens or top 15 allergens, so that we can go guide our practice.
Nagaraj sir, there are some questions for you also.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next question, which goes in detail, is could you explain about immunosuppression, the role of calcineurin inhibitors, oral therapy, and topical therapy? So, which is better? Should it be given together?
See, calcineurin inhibitor definitely, which will definitely help. See, either oral liquid form or capsule form, depending upon the individual acceptance by the dog. See, the dog will accept sometime orally capsule, sometime it will reject. It will be difficult for the owner to give. All those things are there. So we have to, according to the individual dog. Individual dog, it is not applicable for all dogs. So sometimes the local application. See, whenever there is a focal area lesions. So in the initial stage, it will have a, as doctor was telling about the non-lesional pruritus is the initial stage of the disease. At that time, if you are going for a spray and if it is going to develop 1 or 2 areas, if it is going to be the problem, you can very well go for calcineurin inhibitor spray, tacrolimus spray. That is Tacfapet in Intos they are giving. So that is available in the very well in the market. So we can very well go for it because it is a spray form. It will get absorbed. Even animal may not go for licking. Before licking, it will get absorbed. That is the very beauty of it. Apart from that, there is another thing. Cortisone. That is a hydrocortisone acetonate. So that is the one which is going to help a lot because when it is going to enter into the dermis, it will get denatured. So there won't be any side effect. So these drugs can be used either focal or in different areas. If it is going to be there, we can very well use that. And in that way, it will be very much helpful. But we cannot go in chronic cases only a sole drug of that. We can add that along with the other drugs like anticytokines, Apoquel, all those things will be very much useful. Cyclosporin, Apoquel, all the drugs are highly promising. And the ultimate is immunotherapy. That is
the next question is to both of you. Which is the most safest drug for canine atopic dermatitis?
No single drug.
No.
We had to go.
If you are talking about the safest drug, we can say it's Locovimab because that is not going to harm anything. That is just going to block the IL-31. So there will be no harm, but how much it will be affected, that we have to consider. But if you are considering it should be effective as well as safest, so it is safest, but it can't be so much of effective. As sir, we have already discussed, he has used that, and what the claimed in the publication, that is not usually observed in our country or in your normal practice. So if they are claiming that it's effective in 40%, so you can consider it that it's effective in 40%, but there is no harm. So you have to judge. It's a clinician discretion that what to be used. So you can use the combination. You can reduce the other drugs with the use of this monoclonal antibody. So if you talk about the safest drug, monoclonal antibody is considered to be the safest.
Even the Apoquel, that is oclosutinib, is very good, but the thing is it will be similar to that of glucocorticoid, the fast acting. Unlike cyclosporin, it will take more than 3 weeks to have appreciation of symptoms. So the improvement of symptoms. Whereas here immediate effect will be there, but the thing is the cost wise it will be higher. So it all depends upon the management of our client. How he is accepting what therapy he is. He have to tell all the whatever available. Then he has to pick up, and we have to decide according to the need of the dog and according to the need of the client, and based on the improvement. All these things will vary individually. So it is not one application for all the dogs. So it is very, very important.
That's why I was saying
individual tailor-made multi-drug approach. That is the only.
Yeah, that's why I was saying about Tacfapet. I was saying about the topical application of tacrolimus. That it's very important for the students, those who are listener here. That if you are applying that tacrolimus, you will not find it's observable or sufficient effect within a few hours or few days. So what the students are thinking, it's not working. It's not working. It doesn't mean. You should know that how much time it will take. So you have to judge about the risk versus benefit. Benefits are too much. You have to inform your honor. You have to tell about the effect, when it will be desirable, when it will come. If honor is saying that there is no effect, it doesn't mean that there is no effect. It will take its own time. Calcineurin inhibitors are not working immediately. So you will not find immediate effect, but in long-term application, you will definitely find the effect of the calcineurin inhibitors. So it should be known that what could be the effect of this drug and when it will be observable.
True.
So you have to train or you have to inform your client. Then that will be very helpful for developing a good relationship between client and owner.
True. One known fact is that in atopic dermatitis, things work, but they take time to work, and they are long lasting, and they are something like a heart disease wherein the treatment may be lifelong also for a few dogs. Or in other cases, if the allergen is removed, they may come out of the atopy. The next question is coming up for the third time from Dr. Neelam. If gingival hyperplasia is noticed, should I stop calcineurin, especially orals? Is it so in clinical practice?
Definitely, it is a side effect of calcineurin. We have to avoid that. It is better to avoid it.
Gingival hyperplasia is the side effect.
So one of the important side effect.
It is primarily to do with more with immunosuppression, and Dr. Nagaraj and Dr. Shankar has rightly said we should avoid in such cases. The next question is that the presentation was marvelous. People have appreciated from all streams, from all areas. And I think that brings us to the end. Thank you, Dr. Shankar. Thank you, Dr. Nagaraj, to add the cream onto the cake.
Thank you, Nitin, for your wonderful coordination, and also Amin Jot for his very good background work.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. I'm especially thankful to this society, and we have created this society to, Nagaraj sir is the aim that everybody is talking about cardiology specialists, and nobody in our country is taking care of the dermatological problems. But because what I feel, people are going away from dermatology because their impact is seen by the honors. In cardiology, no one is going to judge you that what you are doing. Being a dermatologist, it's a very difficult task. And if you are a really good clinician and you have a good judgment and developed a good concept of the dermatology, then a dermatologist can be there and he can sustain in this practicing field. So it's a very really, everybody is saying that it's frustrating for honor as well as this practitioner. So people are going away from this dermatology, but the most of the time we are encountering the dermatological problem. So be prepared. If you are really a smart veterinarian or you want to a good clinician, you should have a good concept of veterinary dermatology. And I'm very thankful to Nagarajan sir for bringing this society in our country. We will definitely grow and grow, and we will keep the dermatology of our country very high. Our country will also be there at the global level. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Nagarajan sir, 50% of the people participating today want to become members. So, I'll request you to close and say a few words about it.
Yeah.
As a founder, as a dermatologist, I'll request you to close and.
I will. Through the communication, I'll send you the details to become a member, and in future we'll be having all programs, and even we are having our own YouTube channel is there. All the recorded version of this will be you can anytime you can see that, and also we have got Facebook thing. AVD Facebook is there, Association for Veterinary Dermatology. You can go through that, and we'll be keep on doing every year conferences apart from this webinar, even in person understanding and exchanging of ideas with the national, international people are yet to come. We are going to do that after this corona fever has gone in India. Thank you very much. We will very soon communicate with you about the details of the payment and other things. Thank you very much for your appreciation. Thank you.
Thank you to all. Thank you.
Thank you.